Our next session is session 8, supply of chain management, creating momentum going forward. Our moderator will be Nick Amante. He's a graduate of Sacramento State University. Stinger up. He has been with CalRecycle since 2012, holding various positions with the Materials Management Local Assistance Division. Nick has served as the lead for the Tire Incentive Program and contract manager of the feedstock conversion and technical assistance contract. Nick currently supervises the Tire Incentive for Recycling Environment Unit. Welcome, Nick Amante.
Thank you very much, Sally, for that warm introduction. It's a pleasure to be back on campus for those that have attended Sac State. Stingers up. So today I am your session 8 moderator. I will begin by introducing our panelists and we'll invite them up to the stage. Eileen Dutton is the Vice President of Malarkey Roofing Products. Timothy Vander Heiden, CEO, Safepath Products. Bahman Behbehani, General Manager of MBTechnology. Richard Carter, Vice President of Waste Tire Product Innovations, LLC. And Lauren Jessup, President of Sierra Play Partners, LLC. We also have Lisa Anderson, General Manager of SpectraTurf, who is joining us online. And at this time, I would like to introduce our facilitator. If you were with us for day 1, you'll notice that this platform is very similar to session 4, in which we will talk to various tire-derived product manufacturers here in the state, and we look forward to the exciting conversation that will arrive out of this discussion. So our facilitator to join us again for round 2, Mr. Gary Henson, President and founder of BusinessCoach.com. He is a pioneer in the business coaching industry, and over the last 30 years has trained over 7,000 business coaches and coached over 500 companies. He has helped top executives stay focused, work less hours, dramatically increase their bottom line, and live a life they're passionate about. He is also a passionate philanthropist and has sat on the board of several organizations such as Together America, Top 20 Thought Leaders of Sacramento, Megamorphosis Magazine, and the Sacramento Fellowship of Marketplace Christians. Above all of his success, Gary feels his greatest accomplishments in his life are his relationship with his wife, Janine, his 5 adult daughters, and their family. Please welcome Gary Henson.
Thank you, and welcome everybody. Looking forward to this session in particular. And welcome panelists, and thank you panelists for donating your time and investing in our process this morning. Sally, if you could keep your mic handy, maybe what we'll do is get started here, ask a couple of questions, and then perhaps have you let the audience ask some questions as well. Does that work? Good. So I wanted to let you panelists know before we get started that I am not of your industry, so I'm learning a lot about what we're talking about today. I've had some help with the questions, so the questions should be very pointed for what our conversation is about this morning. And if you could, we'd like to have you answer the questions from a visionary place. Let's think about the future and where we might go as an industry and where your industries might go, and kind of think in those terms. Are we ready? Ready to get started? Everybody ready? Good. So the first question for our panelists, and we'll start with you, Eileen. We'll work our way around this way. I'm not seeing the other individual on our screen. Is there a... Yeah. Lisa is supposed to be with us. Oh, there she is. Here she comes. Okay, good. Welcome, Lisa. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
We can't hear you.
Oh, I'm not muted. You can't hear me?
There we go. There we go. Good. We can hear you.
Okay.
Fine.
Okay.
Thank you. Welcome, Lisa.
Perfect. Thank you.
So we're just getting started, Lisa, and our first question going this way around the room is, looking forward, what kind of partnerships and industry consolidations do you see happening in the near future?
Okay. I guess the mic's on. I envision Okay, if we're looking at my industry, I see definite consolidation. I'm in roofing, and I think when I first started in roofing, there were 35 companies that made shingles, and I think there's now 7. So been a lot of consolidation, but even the smaller companies are being purchased, like the people who make underlayments and things like that are being purchased. So seeing a lot of consolidation there, but I also think a lot of times that leads to even more small companies coming out because people end up not liking working for the larger companies. So I think you will see a little bit of diversity. As far as partnerships, I know that we try to partner with our vendors very closely. When we purchase materials, we make sure that we have our quality specifications being met. Quality is probably number 1 to us. But we also are looking at our supply chain and looking to try to partner with them as far as sustainability also. And that means not just like the recycled materials, but all the way down the chain, sustainability for people, and et cetera. So.
Okay, thank you. I apologize to everyone. I forgot to do introductions here. So Eileen, if you would introduce yourself, we'll go around the room. We'll end up with Lisa. A brief 30-second introduction, if you will.
Okay, my name's Eileen Dutton. I work for Malarkey Roofing. I'm the Vice President of Product, which is for research, quality, and our tech services at the installation services and warranty services. We manufacture asphalt shingles. We are probably number 5 in as far as size of companies that produce shingles. So we're a fairly small manufacturer. There are basically the 3 big manufacturers and then 4 smaller ones.
Thank you. Timothy?
Hi, Tim Vander, Heiden, CEO of Safepath Products. We manufacture code building products, accessibility products for code compliance, ADA, Fair Housing Act compliance. And so we have a rather really strict standard within our product lines. The attention to detail is necessary for us to be in compliance. When you're using molded products, it's not like injection molded products. So the variances have an impact on our finished products. So we have a lot of I call it handcrafted goods, but we are probably the largest of the molders in the transition ramp industry. And we've worked with the NBA this year, which was amazing. We did many of the NBA courts, and then we did a lot of housing as well. So anyway.
Thank you.
Richard Carter, Waste Tire Products Innovations. We're in Carson, California, small company. We specialize in punch and split and punch products, specifically building dock bumpers and marine bumper material for the marine industry.
Thank you.
Hi, Bahman, Behbehani. I'm the general manager for MBTechnology. We manufacture modified bitumen roofing and underlayment system from Fresno, California, mostly the Southwest and the Western United States. Been in business since '83, and in February of this year, we were acquired by Carlisle Construction. So now we're part of Carlisle Company Group. It's a publicly traded company. And actually the EcoTorch, which is a product we made for low slope application with recycled tire through a grant through the CalRecycle, has been one of the attractive products which meets the demand for Carlisle to meet their stewardship and to enable to show that they're investing in companies which do recycled products.
Thank you.
Hi, Lauren Jessup, owner of Sierra Play Partners. We install playgrounds and playground surfacings up and down the state. Also own a molding company in Modesto where we mold matting, mostly matting materials. Been involved with CalRecycle for 21 years now with the TDP program and the TIP programs.
Thank you. And Lisa?
Hi, my name is Lisa Anderson, and I am the VP of eCore Construction Units, which consist of 3 companies that I oversee: Surface America, A-Turf, and SpectraTurf. SpectraTurf is the only company located in California and involved in the CalRecycle program. SpectraTurf specializes in the installation of playground safety surfacing. It is one of the top 5 playground surfacing companies in the US. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, thank you again, panelists. I'll repeat the question. Thank you, Elaine, for answering first. We'll go to you next, Timothy. The question is, looking forward, what kind of partnerships and industry consolidations do you see happening in the near future?
One of the things we're doing is we're looking at a lot of automation as much as possible. Mostly our molding operations are run by PLCs now, mitigating a little bit of the need for a lot of manual labor. We are partnering with, and we have continued to do so with Chico State University and working with their mechatronics and engineering division. This year, we're making exoskeleton arms to demold products coming out of our process. So that's exciting about that, and also reaching out and working with municipalities in our particular housing needs that we're seeing across the country for accessibility.
Good, thank you.
Same. Working with a lot of other recyclers has been a big thing for me, and created more opportunities doing so. We're also looking into expanding into more radial truck tires. Right now we specialize in the bias ply material that comes off all the chassis at the ports, and we're now converting over to some radial products, and we're excited about that.
Good, thank you. Bahman?
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of consolidation within the manufacturer sites in our industry, as Eileen noted. And I think what they're interested in, to expand their footprint and also to grow and get into the markets which they were not in. But I think what's attractive with the regional manufacturers is that, they offer products and services which the bigger manufacturers were not offering. And by consolidating, they're able to get that and expand it nationwide within their organization.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, consolidation in the playground industry has been huge in the last 5 years. 2 major companies are rolling up smaller companies across the country. What's been interesting the last several years is how they're picking up surfacing companies in particular, some for their ability to supply buffings in particular for playground surfacing. The 2 segments of the business are interesting in that part of the industry is going towards the playground equipment manufacturers. They're picking up surfacing companies, but then also the suppliers of tire material, Liberty in particular, as an example, I should say, they're picking up surfacing companies too. All that's in a recognition of who's got the buffings, and the company that can hold the buffings, they're going to win in the end. And that's where that consolidation is coming from.
Very good. Thank you. Lisa?
I'm in the same industry as Lauren, so I have to kind of just ditto everything that he said right now. You're seeing a huge consolidation, and buffings do drive that because whoever has the buffings can continue working. So we're seeing equipment companies purchasing surfacing companies purchasing supplier companies. It's all across the board. Huge amounts of consolidation. For us in particular, we're looking more at creating, we do have acquisitions in place, but we're also trying to create partnerships, specifically with our suppliers, partnerships that are helping us with our recycling efforts and our upcycling efforts.
Very good. Thank you. While you're off of mute there, let me go to question number 2, and we'll start with you, Lisa.
Okay.
Question number 2, with supply chain management bringing about constant interruptions, how are you coping with the existing business climate?
The past few years have been very challenging. We've had one disruption after another, for every component, really. We've been very fortunate. What we do is we have to keep a higher inventory. So we keep higher inventories, and we have the ability to do that, to keep the materials in stock to keep on moving. We had some materials that take 6 months to get in. And, it's really hard to operate when your lead time is 6 months out. But we've been able to maneuver through it without any disruption to our business.
Very good. Thank you. Eileen, we'll go to you next. Supply chain management, bringing about constant interruptions. How are you coping with the existing business climate?
The existing business climate right now is cooling down for the roofing market. And I think that's got to do with the fact that new home building is going down right now, potentially going into maybe not a recession, but at least a slowdown of the marketplace. The last couple of years has been very challenging from a raw material standpoint. We've had times when we've had to shut down for a couple of weeks because we couldn't get the materials that we need. And when you have a company with like 600 people, to shut down for a couple of weeks is fairly major. We have actually been acquired also. Wholesome Switzerland company bought us, and they have actually helped us. We were going to be down for potentially 2 months, and they were able to help us in our supply chain. So, the consolidation helped us there. But yeah, it's been a challenging couple of years because things were just run and gun. And now we are seeing a slowdown, not tremendous, but we are seeing a slowdown in what we're doing. And so raw materials are becoming available again.
Things are looking up.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. We've been very fortunate and blessed with our organization because we've been able to continue to see increase in these past few years. One of the problems we did have was with the freeze in Texas and the delivery of urethanes. We were able to get in front of that and be able to purchase large quantities to get us through those times. We're still seeing surcharges in that industry, but right now we're seeing things smoothing out. So we're real fortunate in seeing the supply lines opening up, and there's other problems, but that one is okay
For now.
for now. Yes.
Richard?
Yeah, supply chains have been a big challenge for our company. We ship a lot of products throughout the United States, and we actually import material because we can't get enough material here. And that has definitely affected us. We've had to change gears. We would do more manufacturing in the United States locally versus bringing in material from overseas. But the material, again, was hard to get and hard to ship. And it was very expensive. Trucking rates doubled, if not tripled. We were shipping stuff East Coast. We were paying about $6,000 and it went to like $18,000. Louisiana was costing us $2,700 and it went to like $6,800. So we had to take the bite. We took the hit for lowering our costs. And I even had to ship some material free just to get rid of it to be compliant with CalRecycle. But in the end, things are cooling down, as she said earlier. Things are cooling down quite a bit. The ports are finally catching up, and trucking is starting to realize that they got to lower their prices to continue the business that they've been getting.
Thank you.
We've had the same issue with the supply side, the limited raw material. We were not able to get some raw material, but luckily we planned ahead and we increased our inventory, so we didn't have to shut down. But a lot of our other manufacturers had to shut down, And one unfortunate thing was that the price of some raw material went up by 50%, and then we had to pass it along to our customers, which I didn't feel good about it, but it was the only way we could do it. But luckily what we did is that we've had selected suppliers and we stuck with them for the past 25 plus years. So we didn't switch suppliers, but we had alternate suppliers too. So because of the relationship we built through all these years, we were able to get us through. But then there was a dramatic price increases. And as Eileen said, and everybody else said, now the demand is cooling down, because of the interest rate going up. The demand is coming down, so the price of raw material is coming down, and we're also passing some of that to our customers. But it's been challenging. It's been very challenging, both on the COVID side, both on the supply side. And I think it was like the shipping containers from China, it went from 4,000 or 5,000 to 18,000. I think they were just taking advantage, and everything went up, and that's, I think, the situation we are in right now.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, if you think about a play structure, most of it's made out of steel. In today's world anyway. And last year they had 6 price increases throughout the year for play structures. The customers, for the most part, they went along with it. They understood, people watch the news, they understand what's going on. So that kind of rolled pretty well. I think what's really interesting now is, as the industry is catching up, some manufacturers are doing better than others. And there's a big swing towards those manufacturers that are shipping on time now. So yeah, there's been tons of problems, but I think there's opportunities for especially small companies that are nimble to gain market share when other manufacturers can't catch up. So as an installer, we're fortunate that we've been able to be creative and nimble and diversify the business enough so we're not linked to one manufacturer of equipment. We have 5 that we install for. So, and one good example is a small little school district. They're replacing 23 playgrounds this coming summer. And they shifted from a standardization program with one manufacturer that was 26 weeks out on shipping to one that is 10 weeks out. So what's interesting about that 10-week out guy is he's owned by a private equity firm. They've been really creative, really nimble, and they've got their shipping times back into what seems to be normal and was normal in the industry before, versus the other folks who are big conglomerates that can't seem to get out of their way. They're going to be losing market share in a big way because lack of nimbleness. So I think, yeah, there's been challenges, but I think the companies that can get it together quick are going to win in the end.
Thank you, sir. Lisa, we'll give you a sec to unmute yourself there and answer the question. Or did we start?
I went first.
Yeah, you went first. Anything more you want to add before we go to the next segment?
I think, I don't know if Lauren can agree, but we're not seeing a slowdown in our industry yet. It went up, we're up 30% this year. All numbers and projections show to go up another 30% next year. So we're just not seeing that same slowdown that the other panelists mentioned right now.
Good. Thank you for adding that. So Sally, so it seems like we have a moment here for a hot question. You want to see if you can get somebody to come up with something for our panel?
Sure. Does anybody have a question for our tire-derived product manufacturers?
Hi, Jen Sheeran with USTMA. This question's for Richard. Richard, did you indicate that you're bringing material into the US, and what would that material be?
Yes, bias ply feedstock, which, if you're not aware, a lot of the chassis companies are converting over to radials.
Do we have another question? Any online, Randy? Okay, then we'll go back to Gary.
Everybody's good? Okay, question number 3 for our panel. We'll start with you, Richard. What do you need more of to grow your company over the next couple of years?
Patience. We're currently looking to grow our business and expand. We're looking at properties in the Los Angeles area, and I think that I don't have to explain the expense of that and why most businesses aren't in the Los Angeles area. The challenge for us is to be in Los Angeles because the network of opportunity with the supply is basically at the ports, and then we also import. And then we also export some products. So it makes sense to be close to ports and be near Los Angeles ports. And so hopefully we can, by next year, have a property that we can,
So you need more space and there's limitations because of your proximity. You want to be close to ports,
Yeah,
both import and export.
we're currently close to the port, so that's not an issue, but we have grown exponentially and we've outgrown our space. And the problem is finding a new space.
Yeah, I can see an issue there and perhaps an opportunity as time goes forward. We'll see.
Yes.
Yeah. Bahman?
What we're doing is to compensate for a drop in the business due to the interest rate hike, is to go to also new markets and come with new products, because you can't rely on that re-roof market and the new construction market, but that's going to slow down for the next year or two. So we're going to new markets and coming with new products to fill in that gap. But then, you have to adapt on a daily basis. Otherwise, if you just want to stand still, it's just going to be left out, So we're aggressively going after that right now, new products and new markets.
Thank you. Lauren?
As Lisa said, our business is continuing to, our industry is continuing to grow rapidly. I think that's mainly because there was a pent-up demand rolling over from 2008, 2010, when there was so many budgets cut so drastically. And in the playground industry, you don't have an option of whether to delay maintenance or delay replacement of a piece of equipment for very long. So eventually the safety issue becomes an issue where it has to happen. So I believe we have the next 3 or 4 years of good growth in front of us. My company is pull on an extra growth aspect in that we're installing DSA shades at this point. Because of COVID, one of the reasons is, but COVID is one of the reasons, is there's a move for classrooms to be moved outside at this point. And that moving of kids outside, especially in the Central Valley, requires shade. And that's, you'll see a movement at your elementary schools. There's some creative companies out there now that are actually creating outdoor classrooms that includes rubber surfacing, DSA shades, and outdoor monitoring, special monitors of TV monitors and all that. So a lot of growth in our industry, getting qualified people, fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it. 99% of everything I do is certified payroll, and it's prevailing wage. So finding people and maintaining people, not so much of a problem. Finding qualified people is a challenge there. So a lot of growth in this industry.
Thank you. Lisa?
Again, I feel like we're agreeing with each other so much. We're expanding. There's a lot of growth, lots of organic growth, but even more than that, going into different territories. So we don't see a slowdown, but we are expanding. Not only we are being innovative, coming up with new product lines for the playground surfacing industry. Challenges that we have are the same as Lauren, just the workforce, hiring new people. We're expanding into Texas right now, and the main thing is hiring a skilled workforce that has experience in our industry, because we're a very niche market. So there's a small pool to pick from. Or train, and training takes a long time. And then are they going to stay at that point? We spend months training, and sometimes they don't stick. So workforce is definitely the biggest challenge that we have. And then also behind that would be kind of just all the pricing of everything. We have to move into a different facility, purchase facilities, and real estate market is really high right now.
Yeah, lots of workforce employee pressure in all industries across the board. Because if you're pulling from a small group and you're pulling your people into your company, then that's taking away from another area of the workforce. So it's becoming a bigger and bigger problem all the time. Eileen?
Okay. What Malarkey has done is pushed sustainability. And I mean, we got into recycling tires and plastics, not because of anything other than Malarkey always was kind of a green company, not just our logo, but we did try to do things in the green way. So what we're doing is pushing our sustainability message out to our customers as well as to their customers. We sell to distribution, they sell to roofers. So we're pushing the sustainability message, and we are actually getting really good traction on that. We've also got testing to show that the product works better than it used to. So that helps also. So we're working on sustainability and pushing it. We're actually hoping to expand. So while the market's slowing down a little bit, like that's why I said it's slowing down a little bit, but we were behind the 8 ball the whole last 2 years. So it's slowing down a little bit, but we are still growing. So I think the sustainability push, the message of sustainability throughout the workforce, throughout the through the product is really hitting home with people.
Thank you.
Along with that, agreeing with the workforce, seeing developing more automation in our processes is helping reduce that and be able to provide higher living wages versus having a whole bunch of people that are doing a lot of manual work. Hearing that the CalRecycle loan program has relieved some of the collateralization that they're doing is really encouraging, because we're looking to expand in equipment and in facility size. We are a part of the TIP program. We want to be more involved in the TIP program each year. Those are great resources for us to grow. And another thing that's close to me in my heart is that we've been seeing a lot of competitive knockoff products coming from China. So we've taken these products and tested them and found them to be toxic and should be declared hazmat. So I'm pursuing kind of an agenda to try and eliminate some of those toxic materials coming into this country, particularly when they're taking other market share and it's illegal with what they're doing. So the only way to really prevent that is to have manufacturers, or I should say company owners, not be aware of that and not buying those types of products coming into this country. It's hard to stop the selling of, for online, but nevertheless, we're making an effort for that. And we have a new color technology that we've developed that can apply to any molded product. And so that's also that's something that's going to grow our company and move our products along. So if you have interest in any Chinese products knocking you off, please talk to me after.
Very good. Thank you. That's great insight. Thank you. Lauren, we're going to start with you on the next question. We've maybe covered this, and maybe in some of the other questions, the answers have come forth, but here's the question for you. Is there enough of the right kind of materials available to fill the current and future demands and needs?
I'll step off into our molding business. We're part of the TIP program, and it's a 30 mesh product that we use to mold H blocks for rooftop conduit mounting. And then we make doormats as well for retail purposes. So that 30 mesh question is always the question. Is it's a product that's the finest probably that's being made, and a processor. So right now I think the suppliers are keeping up fairly well, but if that segment of the business grows more, I think there'll be a challenge to keep enough 30 mesh into the business. Flopping back over to the surfacing side, the buffings are the answer. I'm really encouraged to see that CalRecycle's picking up that buffings question now more than they ever have, in my opinion, and supporting retreaders. I think it's a part of the long-term solution for using less tires and and it also helps the surfacing side of the business. But to keep the buffings going for the playground industry in particular, or the surfacing industry, is always a challenge. And I think those are the two issues that I would be concerned about with supply.
Good, thank you. We'll go around to you again, Lisa. Is there the right kind of materials available to fill the current and future demands and needs?
We have the right kind of materials to supply our needs. It's just at the wrong pricing. Right?
Yeah, we're all feeling that.
It's
Yes.
too expensive. And, you get retroactive increases. People talking about the ports. I had, containers on the water kind of held hostage unless I agreed to an increase. So we're dealing with these situations that just get very challenging. In our market, in the construction industry, we get into legal contracts pretty early on. So we're in these contracts and these projects don't go, or our portion of that contract doesn't go for 6 months to a year. So it's been challenging with the price increases. And then someone else had mentioned having to absorb that because we're not always able to pass these on, especially when we're in these contracts with government agencies. So that would be the challenge. One thing that we did, because Lauren did mention the buffings being in very short supply. And I've been in the industry for over 20 years, and that has always been the case. It's buffing has always been a product that people are fighting over, the surfacing companies. And like I said earlier, whoever has the buffings continues working. But what we've done this year with the grant program is we're putting the recycled materials into the playground surfacing, but we're going a step further. And the playgrounds that we're taking out, we're not sending to the landfill because these are tires. They're just end of life tires at a different product, right? You have your tires, end of life, playgrounds, end of life. So we're taking these playgrounds and then now we're going full circle and recycling playground surfacing and then reusing it in the next playground.
Very good. Very creative. I'm curious, Lisa, have you modified your contracts or put clauses in your contracts that indicate that prices, your costs could go up and therefore that would be passed on to your clients?
We have modified, definitely. I think the last couple of years dealing with the supply chain issues, Texas was a huge problem when all the binders became in short supply. But then, like I said, the importing of materials. So we are now making sure those clauses are very clear. So yes, they're being modified, but we were caught off guard for sure.
Yes. Yeah. Many of my clients have had the same issues and we've had to deal with this delays of getting product and price increase after we've already signed a contract with the provider. And we've had to change clauses and contract agreements to account for that, because otherwise, obviously, your profits diminish.
Yeah.
So thank you. Good insights, Lisa. Eileen?
From the crumb rubber side, I think that we're sitting pretty well. We use a size that's harder to manufacture for people, but we do have some good suppliers. As far as other materials used in our industry, there are still shortages out there for different raw materials. And I think, as we grow, we're going to have to grow our supply chain as well. And we're looking at doing it in the US and not bringing in imports.
Yeah, new term for the future. I just realized developing your supply chain.
Exactly.
Something we didn't have to think about 3 or 4 years ago, but it's maybe common today, huh?
Exactly
you.
right. We've had the same issues. And what happens is when that shows up, it's usually at the 11th hour. It's not something to we're not getting lots of notice that there's going to be a problem. It's all of a sudden, where's the truck? It's not here this week. It'll be here next week or the week after. And then you're worrying that your supply lines are going down. I'm like Lauren, where we use like 20, 10, 20 and 30 blend. And so what happens is when that's not there, we're looking at, oh my gosh, we're going to have to let everybody go home, in 3 days if it's not here. And then the phone calls start. So that's the pressure that's unnecessary. I think that we can all work together better with communication with our suppliers and do a better job of having that supply line be a little bit less.
Yeah, that 11th hour stuff is creates some sleepless nights.
It's not fun.
It's not fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Timothy on that one. So as I said earlier, we've diverted into some radial products because there's less bias ply products. We have gone overseas to bring in bias ply product, and we're actually reaching out to other regions of the country to bring material in, or we're opening satellites. Possibly if there's enough material in those areas, we'll open satellite locations.
How do you factor that in, Richard, as your company is looking at expanding and you're looking for bigger facilities and operations? How do you take under consideration that you might be expanding your operation and have the capacity, but maybe you can't get the product or the employees to backfill that? What's the thought process that you have around that?
Well, like I said, we're getting more involved with the radial product, and there's no shortage there. So we do see the opportunity, and working with our existing partners in the industry is going to create a stronger opportunity. Like I said, we possibly could bring in material if we need to bring in more material. But I think diversifying and getting more involved with the radial side of the tire industry is what's going to be needed to have a larger facility.
Thank you. Bahman?
We haven't had much issue getting the raw material, and the only one was a tire. The 50 mesh was a limited supply, so we increased our inventory on that product to avoid any disruption. But apart from that, we've stuck with this with the suppliers for the past 20 plus years. We've been loyal to them, they've been loyal to us. We've built a relationship, and that enabled us to carry us through without any disruption during the pandemic.
Good, very good. So let me check with the audience. Is there somebody who has a burning question that's come up? I don't want to have Sally wandering around looking for people. Is there somebody who wanted to raise their hand that has a question? If not, we can move on.
I have a question.
Oh, good. Sally, please.
You've mentioned several CalRecycle programs that you've participated in, either a grant or a loan or an incentive program. What program or activity could CalRecycle do that would help your particular business?
I can take that one. I think I've mentioned this before. The capitalization of equipment is one of the more difficult things for the ROI for a company to do in California. So if we could have like a forgivable loan program where we would could bring in meet our quotas and then have a forgivable loan, would be more like a capital grant for machinery, would be very, very helpful to increase the industry. Operating in California, as you all well know, is difficult. Our insurance went from $16,000 to $48,000 this year. Labor's doubled. Energy costs can go from 28 cents a kilowatt hour to $14.90 a kilowatt hour if you're hitting the demand charges. So there's lots of things that make it problematic. So that would really allow manufacturers to probably grow and not just keep the status quo.
Open up the floodgates a little bit. Lauren, you want to add to that? And then Richard?
All right, perfect.
Well, it's not really, he's exactly right on everything he said, but I'd like to see you take a little bit of a flyer, and think out of the box maybe a little bit differently. Not necessarily, I'm not speaking as a business owner right now, I'm speaking as the citizen of the state. We're all about recycling, and that's always going to be there, but I don't know that CalRecycle is doing enough maybe out there to put less tires into the environment. And I think there's great programs and even maybe some legislation that can be done. Quick story is, I just bought a new truck last year. It was an $80,000 truck. It's a nice truck. That's my office. And within a year, I drive 30,000 miles a year. Within a year, I was putting brand new tires on that truck. I don't know why the state can't mandate new vehicles, 1.9 million new vehicles being put on the road this year, why they can't be mandated to put 70,000 mile tires on those trucks. That's what I put on when I replaced my truck tires, is a good Michelin 70,000 mile tire. A simple spreadsheet over 1.9 million vehicles, 70,000 mile tire versus a 30,000 mile tire. How many less tires are on the road? Within a year, 2 years, 5 years, it's hundreds of thousands of less tires that we have to manage. And then behind that, I mean, besides the new vehicles, when you go to replace your tires at a less swab or wherever, could there be they always give you a good, better, best position, a 30,000, a 45 and a 70,000 mile tire position. Price points are all ratcheted up. Maybe there's a instant rebate program that CalRecycle could offer to get you to buy up quality on tires. So a little bit of a flyer and saying it in this format. Sorry about that, but maybe there's an opportunity that we could actually put less tires on the road that we have to deal with recycling.
Very creative. Thank you, Lauren. And one last comment, Richard, please take your time. Go ahead.
Sorry, I think she wanted to go too.
Oh.
You wanna go,
Lisa as well? Okay.
Yeah.
I
Ladies
did.
first.
Thank you. I would like, there's a lot of effort on the front end to use recycled products. And you did mention the SB or SABRC, and I'd really like to see what that says and what it involves as far as what recycled content is. And if it includes a certain percentage that has to be California recycled or certain sizing. But there's a lot of incentive on the front end, but I don't see people following up on the back end. Like I mentioned earlier, we're putting these tires into the playgrounds, but at the end of life in 10 to 15 years, we're only delaying the process of these tires going to the landfill. I would like to see more incentives for the agencies, public agencies, to be responsible to make sure that these materials that are taken out don't go to the landfill. There's been verbiage over the past couple of years in place on contracts with public agencies requiring contractors and subcontractors to recycle 75% of their waste. So we're seeing the verbiage come out, but there's no controls in place to monitor it. Not one time have I been asked to show any proof that my materials that the materials that we took out are actually tickets, going to a recycler, the dumpster. I'm not asked for any backup proof to make sure that they diverted from the landfill. So I would like to see it come for full circle and see more incentives on that back end as well. Because really what I'm taking out is the same as what I'm putting in, the same amount of tires, essentially.
Thank you. Richard?
Yeah, I'd like to thank CalRecycle and Denise Kennedy for allowing me the opportunity to be here. I'm quite a bit smaller company than most of you guys here. And being that said, trying to get any finance or any loans from CalRecycle, I feel like there hasn't been any consideration for what we manufacture, considering we use less energy. We're more of a reuse, repurpose. And I think it makes more sense that companies should be able to benefit or have the benefits that other companies have that are more efficient with manufacturing.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. We'll move on to our next question. We may have answered part of this already. Oh,
Right, Barstow ATR. You talked about increasing cost of binders and other products, specifically tire related, whether it's high fine grind, 50 minus, 20 minus, 10 crumb for molding, 3/4 product. Explain the price that has held or raised or decreased over the life of the span that you've been using that product.
who'd like to tackle that one?
I can speak to that a little bit. Throughout the last, Brett, you and I, we worked together, and when CalRecycle was really pumping hard on the nuggets for playgrounds, we moved thousands of truckloads into playgrounds, and then things changed drastically. During that process, the prices was on a steady incline, up and up because of the supply and the demand thing. So on that side of the business, I think we're stable a little bit more in that it helps that we're not moving product anymore on that. And but I'm not seeing a significant price increase from the generators, and we get it primarily from a couple different sources, but it's holding pretty well.
I think to answer your question, I think in the past year or two, we've seen a 20% increase.
Okay. Other comments? Other questions before we move on?
Looks like we have no questions virtually. If you have a question virtually, please use the widget for questions.
Good. Thank you, Sally. So let's stay on the topic of, some of you have answered this question. Do we have any additional recommendations for new types of incentives that could be offered by CalRecycle? Anybody, start with you, Eileen? Do you have additional thoughts about that?
I mean, there are some things that not tire related that I think CalRecycle could get more into, recycling and helping out with recycling other types of materials. But no, I'm not really sure. Other than, like I said, I mean, we kind of use we have tip funds, and we kind of use those funds to help improve processes in the plant. So that's kind of how we use our tip funds. We don't use it as a, just as a way to increase profits. We use it to try to use more recycled materials in the plant. So we're putting more equipment in the plants and such. But so, I think the loans is a great way to help people. I know there's a marketing program to look at sustainability in your plan as far as energy goes. CalRecycle has works with somebody who pushes looking at energy consumption and such. But I think maybe that could be enhanced a little bit, might help people out. And then I think one of the big things that we could do is maybe from my industry, we don't see much as far as public works mandating or asking even for materials that have recycled content in them. I think that might happen in the future, but maybe that's something that CalRecycle could, just, I mean, it doesn't even have to be a mandate. It could just be an education program to schools, public works, things like that, that, hey, we're putting California funds into these. Let's support, support and recycling by having recycled materials purchased by the public works and such.
Good, thank you. Anything more, Tim, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I would like to. One of the things we saw, we did complete solar. We had a $200,000 solar project 2 years ago, and we were still seeing demand charges at our plant that went to $14.90 a kilowatt. And so once you hit that peak moment at 15 minutes, then it goes that way for the rest of the month. So we were looking at extremely large bills, even in addition to our solar. So we have to continue to get freak drives. Everything had to be computerized and bring it down so that we're actually running all the time now, and we don't have these spikes. And that's how it would be nice to have CalRecycle maybe have a liaison with some of the energy companies in the state, and so that we could help work through that. I was able to work through it, but we only did it through technology. There was no assistance, and it was quite a struggle. So that would be something. The other thing would be, and I know this is probably not going to sound really well to everybody, but there's when you're molding certain parts, some are more difficult to make than others. Some are like a delineator base, which is great for traffic, but if you have a dime spot on it or something like that, or that you've got a pattern that doesn't look quite right, that still is going to go into the sale channel. Whereas with our stuff, unfortunately, if there's a dime spot and we got a 98 pound part, we've got a small urethane spot in the center of it, we can't use it. So those are the kinds of things that I'm exaggerating a little bit, but that's kind of what the stuff I would like to see, that the amount of reimbursement maybe be based on the type and the difficulty of the product, because we make trapezoids. So it would be interesting to see that go from the 10 to the 50. Is there another range in there that we could look at?
Very good. Out of the box, Tim. Richard?
Yeah, I'd just like to see more support to the smaller companies. I think the small companies fill the voids of the large companies. You're looking at all your graphs up there and got all these numbers, but where they could be filled is by the smaller companies where they're a little more innovative. They're quick on their feet, and they can respond quicker. Large companies, I notice, are, fence creature of habits, kind of stay in their business. And I think that there could be more credit given to the smaller companies.
Good. Thank you. Bahman?
One area I think would be great, and I think CalRecycle is already doing it, is to educate more of the public agencies on the benefits of using recycled product and what's available. And we did get some leads out of that, out of CalRecycle's effort, but I think just to continue that, educate them, and as Eileen said, not even be a mandate, just educating that, these are available here locally, and encourage them. I think that would be great, so I think they're doing it already, but continue doing that.
Good. Thank you.
Lisa's tapped on something in our industry it's real. And I mentioned it too earlier that in the last 10 years, up until the last 2 years, the industry, CalRecycle supported rubber mulch, rubber nuggets going into playgrounds. Some of that's at the end of life now. Some of it is just needs to come out because people don't like it anymore. So if CalRecycle had a program to, instead of just throwing that into the landfill, which today, for example, I've got 80 yards that we're pulling out and it's going straight to the landfill. It was a CalRecycle program from 10 years ago, but they finally got to the point where they don't want to deal with it anymore. So if we had a program that could help us keep that out of landfill, that would be beneficial.
Good. Very good.
The last thing is just to reiterate what I got on my soapbox earlier on is maybe going to the front end and with an incentive program to encourage people to buy better tires.
Good. Very good. Thank you. Lisa?
The only one thing that I see is pre-COVID, years ago, we had public agencies that received grants, calling pretty frequently. But the minimum requirement usage for them to take advantage of that grant program, they didn't qualify because we're dealing with a couple different things. When you're using that larger chunk rubber, we can't use 100% of it because it affects our safety requirements, because the safety surfacing is designed to protect children from injury. So we have to comply with the drop testing and those safety requirements. So we have to use a lower percentage of these firmer, harder chunks in our system. Therefore, a playground would have to be 9,000 square feet to take advantage of the grant program. In most schools, they're more towards 4,000 or less. So it would be nice if maybe that TRP grant, those requirements can be rewritten so that more of these public agencies can take advantage of the grant program.
Good. Very good. Thank you. Excellent observation. I'm gonna ask all of you one more question before we open it up to the room again for questions. And it encompasses some of the questions that I was planning on asking you, but many of them you've answered bits and pieces of them. So I'm going to be a little bit broad here and ask you, starting with Eileen, what's the number one area that your organization is struggling with at this time? But I want to preface that by saying it could be an economic or a social issue like employees or inflation or things like that. It also could have something to do with CalRecycle or your industry specific. So I'm giving you the latitude or the ability to add what is the number one area that you're struggling with in your organization right now. Eileen?
I'd say that the number one area is still employees. In our industry, in our company, we had a lot of the great retirement happening. We had quite a few people who've aged out of the industry, and we're losing some knowledge there, but we also just in our employee staff trying to look at how we can improve employee relations. And I know Rita was talking yesterday about, the little touches. And that's kind of where we're going with all this also is, they already get good benefits and everything, but trying to touch the employee in more ways and get them feeling warm and fuzzy. Having just been acquired after being a family-owned company for many years, 56, 57 years, was a big shock to a lot of employees. And in being acquired, a lot of the management got busy. So doing things with the new company. And so we kind of, and also COVID came into play. So when COVID came into play, as management, we were not allowed to travel. We weren't, and we were, even if we were located at a plant, we have senior management at least 2 of our plants. Even if we were at a plant, we were told not to go into the plant unless it was absolutely necessary, because we didn't want any spreading of germs or anything like that. And everybody was wearing masks, but at the time you could only get cloth masks, so they didn't really do that much anyhow. But didn't want to take out a crew, because if you take out a crew, a line's down.
Production stops. Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
So it's getting back out into the plant now and doing small things for the people. It's like before COVID, I would bring in donuts like at least once a month for the whole crew. And when you're bringing in donuts for like 100 people, that's that's a lot of donuts.
Yes.
But it was, and it's not much, but it's something that the guys really liked. And
Yeah.
so we're getting back into doing things like that.
Yeah, good. Yesterday's panel used the word developing their culture a lot and spending time developing the culture inside of your organization. And I was very impressed and surprised to hear so much conversation about culture. So that's what you're talking about, Eileen.
Yeah, we're talking about bringing the culture back, basically.
Yeah, good. Very good. More of a family culture than a corporate culture. Yeah, thank you. Tim?
Yeah, we very much culture oriented for our company, our employees. We do cookouts and pumpkin carving contests just last week. And so different things like that. But to answer your question at the 10,000 foot level, it's the operational costs. When I tell people that we manufacture in California, invariably the question is why? I say, well, we pay a lot for that beautiful blue sky, and we do pay a lot for this blue sky. And but for the benefit of this industry, for the sustainability of it, the operational cost from insurance to fuel to all of the things, energy costs, all of those things, and workers' compensation, all of those things that come into play, I'm seeing those numbers grow on my independent spreadsheet and looking at those variables. What's going to happen is that's going to drive companies out. And honestly, you hear people always claim, I'm going to leave. Well, I'm not going to leave. I've got family here, so I'm not going anywhere. But a lot of people beat their chests and say that they're going to, why be in California? I want California to be attractive to manufacturing. The jobs that we create in California bring more money into than any other kind of industry other than retail or any other job creation. So that's what we need to focus on. And how can we do that together collectively is really important, because otherwise the industry will diminish instead of grow. And it's not flourishing right now, in my opinion.
Very good. Very, very creative. Richard.
Sorry, I'm choking over here. Yeah, definitely. Employees have been a big challenge, especially in our industry. Well, we touch tires, so it's hard to find guys in this economy where they have so many other offers out there. Drive a forklift, making $25 an hour and getting benefits. We can't afford that. I would like to be able to afford that.
Yeah.
I wish I could go out there and give everybody those kind of raises. I just gave everybody a raise last week. I just announced it to everybody. And that was kind of good for the morale that everybody got a raise. Some people are like, well, why is he getting a raise? But to me, it was just, I felt like we need to keep up with the economy, or at least try my best. I think they appreciated it at the end of the day. I do buy them lunch. Sometimes I buy them lunch on a Friday. Just won't tell them. I'll just show up and they'll have a lunch. They like those kind of little surprises. But it has definitely been challenging to find quality people that want to come to work. I have guys, they feel comfortable calling in sick 2-3 times a month. And you can't fire them because you can't replace them. So you're kind of stuck with this madness. Hopefully that'll remedy itself soon.
It's beginning to change a little bit, at least here in Northern California, as far as I can tell. And the issue sometimes in giving people increased salaries is you also increase their expectations when you increase the salary. So everybody gets a raise, and then it becomes addictive for the employees. So
My expectation is just come to work every day, please.
With a pulse.
they don't care about your expectations. Thank you. Good dialogue, Richard. Bahman?
I think what Tim said, the operation to operate a business in California is just so expensive. The utility, the taxes, the fuel cost to ship material, labor, all of it is just above any other state, I think. So that's a challenge, we pay more for gas to ship our product outside, to bring our raw material in, our utility. I mean, we have a big solar unit, but still, I mean, you're looking at about 10,000+ a month we pay, So I think it's just the operation cost in California is quite high, and it's a challenge to compete with out-of-state manufacturers,
Yeah, to use one of Tim's lines, blue sky is expensive.
Very expensive. Nice. Great, because all the fires, it's not even blue anymore.
Great place to live, but it is an expensive place to live. Lauren?
Yeah, California is a challenge, no doubt about that. But, I grew up in Michigan. I ran plants in Pennsylvania, and I ran plants in Texas, and there's no greater place to be in California. This is home, and this is, it's not just blue sky, it's the mountains, it's the people, it's the opportunity. I mean, it's done, there's more millionaires made here. There's more millionaires in this room than if you go anywhere else. And so there's opportunities. It comes at a cost. You have to work hard. As a small business guy, it's even harder. I was audited 8 times last year as a small business guy, from DIRs to, CalRecycle to, now all the insurance companies want to do an annual audit before you renew. So all of those restrictions are tough, but it's a barrier to entry. They said that yesterday, and I believe that's true. I just say everybody here, if you want to think about it a little bit more, try building playgrounds and shade structures and dealing with rubber, and then think about all those regulations that you have to go through. So yeah, as tough as it might be, if you're a little bit of a masochist, start building playgrounds.
Thank you. Lisa?
That's great, Lauren, because the regulations that we have to deal with in labor compliance and certified payroll, the DIR reporting, all of these things, working with the public agencies are so time consuming and kind of difficult. They don't, the systems don't make it easy for this reporting. But I do agree with you. I agree with everybody, Tim. California is very challenging. The cost here, operational costs. We're looking at, when our lease is up, our rent's supposed to go up double. That's huge to start accounting for, along with everything else. So it is hard to work in the state with the pricing, but ultimately for our industry, California is the largest market for playgrounds. So
Yes,
we have to be here. We want to be here for that reason. This is the biggest market. California, I think for us, you go into Florida and Texas are next. So operational costs are huge for us, just because we've seen such huge increases. It's such a rapid pace of the increases in a short amount of time that none of us were used to. And then it's lasted a while too. It hasn't gone down.
yeah.
And then beyond that, employees, agreeing with Eileen, And I like the comment of the one who said that we kind of enable our employees for bad behavior because we can't get rid of them because we have to keep on going. You know, I run into that. Luckily, not a lot of them, but I have a couple where it is challenging because you want to promote good behavior and you don't want these to continue, but you also get tied into, you get backed in a corner where there's not much you can do because you have to, your book of business is, I'm booked to January or through January. But what we do try to do, because right now we're competing with every McDonald's and In-N-Out on pricing, we try to be competitive, but we can't compete all the time. I mean, now we have fast food industries paying $24 an hour for entry-level wages. So we're not always able to compete, and where we have to make it up is the company culture. We have to treat our employees well. We are able to offer the benefits, but we do value them and show their value. And then we try to give them a work environment that's efficient and supports what they're doing.
Good. Thank you. Yeah, but you were going to say something else. Go ahead.
I was going to say on the other side of that, for the recycling, I love what, the support of CalRecycle and what you guys are doing for the companies. And I do like this interaction where we're able to voice our opinion on room for improvement, because there's always ways to improve any process. So I am appreciative of being able to speak our mind of things that they may be able to improve in the future with a couple items that I brought up.
Good. Thank you very much. Sally, can we want to see if we can, we have a couple minutes left for questions from the audience.
I have a question. Lisa spoke about she takes a playground out, she puts a playground in. Does your company run a closed loop system so that you would take back your product at the end of the life and put it back into another product?
That's what we're working towards. But we also need, it's a lot of just letting the public agencies know, 80% of our work is with public agencies. We're primarily working with school districts in Parks and Rec. So at this point, we're the first surfacing company in the US to come up with a program where we do take back end-of-life playgrounds, and we are now sending that to a recycler and recycling them and then using them on the base portion of that playground. So the question is yes, but we do need to come up with a better program for that and incentives for the people to call, for the entities to call us at end of life to take it out and do that. Right now, there's no controls or monitoring of that side of it. That's where we're trying to promote it. And then in turn, we've mentioned several times that the buffings are in such short supply. So it's also reduced our consumption of such a tight material now that we're using these recycled playgrounds in our base portion.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Topher Buck from the California Safer Consumer Products Program. I want to pick up on Mr. Vander Heiden's comment about toxics in imported products, although this question is not necessarily about imported versus domestic. I'm just really curious to know if, and I think this is probably especially for those of you that work, that do work related to schools and playgrounds, potentially, turf infill, or especially like if you make molded products like accessibility ramps that might go into healthcare facilities. I don't imagine this is so relevant for roofing materials, for example. The question is, are you seeing more interest among your customers in disclosure around the chemicals in the products? So requests for testing, requests for disclosure, or even potentially in the context of healthcare, restricted substances lists?
Yes, that comes up frequently in the architectural community. With our new technology, we're able to mitigate that, particularly when we have, say, gymnasium health facilities where they go in and mop these rubber floors. You'll get this off-gassing, and they'll think it's off-gassing. It's really just the smell of tires themselves. With regard to the toxicity of imported products, there's highly toxic materials are in there. And so I'm working towards preventing that and stopping that with an NGO here sometime very soon. But it's on us to create the kind of technology that will make these more acceptable to people, particularly in health facilities, which we have done now. Also, fire rating is another factor, a lot of thing that comes up in the architectural world as well. And there's additives that we can do to help mitigate that.
And actually in the roofing field, we get asked that all the time. I have to sign declarations every year. So we have had our products tested. We have SDSs from all our suppliers. But you know, it's like now people are wanting to go even deeper than the SDS from the suppliers. So we're having to ask our suppliers questions. So yeah, we are seeing more of that, and same with roofing as it goes into architectural field. You get asked for more of that, and the SDSs and as well as the EPDs.
Okay, we'll take our last question.
Actually, I just want to say thanks to all of you. I work with all of you and you did great. So I want to say that, but also I want to recognize Lisa. Appreciate you being on today, but I do want to give credit to Rubber Recovery because they are the one that regrinds the material for them. And I think that's huge. And the Tire Incentive Program recognizes regrinding material as well. So I think that we're trying, but it would be great if others also wanted to do it in the industry and talk to Gary how he does it. Not a question.
I did want to go back to Sally's question also about the recycling and circular economy. We are trying to work towards that. I would say that for roofing, as an industry, we're looking at recycling asphalt shingles, asphalt roll goods. It's almost impossible for us to recycle all of our materials because we would basically be having to make prime material out of old material, and there's just not the technology yet to do that. So we are looking at, you know, other fields. I know it's used in paving, but we are also looking at other uses for it. And I know our company is very heavily involved in looking at potential uses, you know, including putting some material back in our own product, but also other types of products as well.
Good, thank you.
Let's give a round of applause for our Gary and our panel speakers.